Hi, my name is Andy Thompson. I'm a Senior Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Office of Student Life here at K-State. I want to welcome you all to K-State in your role as GTAs. You all do a very important task for us at the institution, and we're excited to work with you. In the Office of Student Life, we have 4 professional staff members that work with our students and our campus community. Myself, and then Dean Laurel Moody and Dean Justin Frederick. We divide our workload by our academic colleges, so depending on which college you're in, you may work with one of us more directly. Carolyn Jones in the office primarily leads our student of concern process, which we will go way more in depth in a little bit about what that looks like and how that can be utilized by you as a graduate teaching assistant. We also have Sarah Barr, who is an attorney in the office. Part of the student fees that students pay and you all pay pays for Sarah's position at the institution. So if at any point in your time here or a student's time here, you have questions about an off-campus lease or a lower level legal concern, you can come and meet with Sarah free of charge. Couple times that she can't work with you, if it's a student on student issue, a student against the university, or just larger level concerns, Sarah will certainly share some names of other attorneys in the area that you might be able to work with. But if it's a lower level case, Sarah is going to be your place to go for review and for advice. So the mission of the Office of Student Life is here on the screen. The way I describe our mission is that we're just here to help students. We know that in a student's time at K-State, whether that's 4, 5, 6 years, it's likely that something comes up that could impact this student's ability to have success. Our goal is to work with students and be here as a support for faculty and staff who experience students that are having concerns, to help resource share with that student, to help problem solve with that student, and in some cases to email you and say, hey, this is what's going on for the student. Can you please work with them? Here's some ideas on how to work with them. We can vouch that this student's experiencing extreme difficulties and some help in the classroom would help lessen the burden. Our hope is to try to minimize the negative impact when life decides to happen for a student. And we know this year, with the unknown of the COVID-19 situation, with the unknown of being online, being hybrid, there's probably going to be a lot of stresses, additional stresses for our students and for our faculty and staff. And so it's going to be very important that we are paying attention and that we're looking out for one another as we work with our students. Some quick facts about our office. Last academic year, we worked with over 3,800 students. That's students that came in, had some sort of concern that we addressed and helped resolve. As deans, we held about 2,300 student meetings. So they met with the dean in the office and there was follow-up to that student issue. Some of those other ones are just kind of really fast or easier absence verifications, things of that nature that didn't require a meeting. You can see on the student of concern reports that we had over 1,400 of those, which is 800 more than we had the previous year, and we're up from the year before that and up from the year before that. We define a student of concern as somebody else puts that student in touch with our office. So you as a GTA have a student come to you and say their grandmother passed away and they have to miss a week of classes. They're not sure what to do. You can submit a student of concern report to us and we will reach out to that student so we can help communicate with all that student's faculty members. You may have a student who was really engaged in your class and coming every week and turning in their homework and doing their discussion boards on time and in a good fashion. And then all of a sudden they just fall off the radar and they're not doing that anymore. You may submit a student of concern for us and we will proactively reach out to that student to check in and see how they're doing. So the growth in that area, I look at it in a really positive context, not in our students are having more issues, but in our campus community is paying more attention to one another and putting students on our radar for when students need, whether that's really low level help or really complicated issues. That's when we want faculty and staff to send them to us. We often in our office say we're a great place to start if a student doesn't know where to turn to. We're also a great place to end if a student feels like they've been everywhere and aren't getting any solutions or aren't getting their questions answered, that we're here to help out with that. So new this year is the absence verification process. In the past, K-State did not have an excused absence policy. That is different. And so if you are not aware of that, F62 in the university handbook explains it in detail. Here's a screenshot of our office web page. So if you go to our web page and click the absence verification button on the left, it's going to get you right here. You can see some of the excused absences that we have responsibility for notifying faculty when a student tells us. That's military service, court appearances, pregnancy, childbirth, or adoption, religious observances, and weather is really more of a university one, but we put that on ours just to give us space for an easy place for a faculty to check that out. What these are is if a student provides us documentation, those are excused now. And so we will send you a letter saying, yep, we've got documentation, this is an excused absence, and you as a professor are gonna work with that student to figure out what that looks like. For some faculty, it's just, okay, yeah, I won't dock your points in when you miss the class. For some, it's a legitimate excused absence and maybe they missed a test. So that's you figuring out, okay, do we schedule a new test? Some classes, if they have 4 tests, they'll drop that test and just average the 3 scores of the other test. You will need to figure out what your consistent kind of how you're going to work with a student looks like when you get one of these excused absences. You'll see here on the verified absences, these are going to be things that aren't necessarily written in the excused absence policy, but are some things that still legitimately impact the student. And so we may have a student come in and we may send you an email that says, we can verify that what this student says is going on, but it's up to you if you want to work with the student or not. So we'll have 2 different letters that you'll see from us that kind of explain the excused versus the verified. If you ever have questions on any of that, you just give us a call and let us know, we'll talk through it. As you click on each of these on our website, you'll see there's some examples of what might constitute military service, what are some documentation pieces that a student could provide, and some hints about how you could work with a student potentially through excused or verified absence. The online submission process, you can see there's a submit your documentation button. A student comes to you and says, hey, I had a doctor's appointment, I had a funeral. You say, go to the Office of Student Life, they'll do that process. A student, literally for those really simple ones with clean documentation, they click that button, they fill out a form, it takes less than a minute, they submit the documentation, and we'll send out the absence verification to you as faculty members. It's important to know there's a couple other offices that also have ability to do excused absences. Student Access Center comes to mind right now. And so it's not just going to be from the Office of Student Life where these things are coming from. So familiarize yourself with this process. The COVID-19 response, we also have a website. You can see here, I think, understanding quarantine versus isolation, understanding asymptomatic versus symptomatic. If a student works with Lafine Health Center, when we send you the letter for the absence, the Lafine Health Center letter will be attached and will tell you which one the student is under. And if you go to our website here and you click on the arrow, it will expand out what asymptomatic means, what symptomatic means, as well as give some tips and hints about how to work with students. You can see the working towards solutions where we give some ideas about how you might work with a student. A student that's quarantining is healthy, just may have been exposed to the virus. And so in the online environment, they very well can continue on in your class. A student who's isolating and asymptomatic, same deal as quarantine, they may be healthy enough to continue working in your class. A student that has symptoms could be very sick, and asking them to keep up with several courses, that just may not be doable in that moment. Because if you've ever had the flu and you've been in bed and you just can't keep your eyes open and you feel terrible, getting online even to do a discussion board can be overwhelming. So what we're asking here, through guidance of the provost has put out several statements that say we're going to work with students through this pandemic. So that's the expectation coming down from the provost. And so we are supporting that. We are asking our faculty and our GTAs to support that. If you have questions or concern about that, you certainly are welcome to call us. You can talk to your department head. We'll work through that. But flexibility and understanding are the words of the semester. And we'll keep moving forward. So also be sure to check out the University COVID site. There's lots of good information on the COVID site about how to work with students, about university operations and how that's looking. While we're talking about absence in COVID, I think it's really important that if you are planning an in-person only class, the likelihood we get through this semester in that class without a student needing to quarantine is very low. And so my biggest recommendation to you is to be prepared to work with students who might not be able to be in your class for 2 weeks at a time. To be prepared for if you have to quarantine, what does your class look like if you can't go into the class for 2 weeks' time? So if you don't have a good plan or at least some sort of online backup, I really encourage you to think through that because I want you all to be successful as well. Knowing that there are some classes that an online component just isn't very easily done. So work with your department head, work with your lead instructor, and make sure you're really thinking through all the options. So transitioning to a different kind of lens of the Office of Student Life, we are the campus safety office. You've got your K-State Police. Certainly, that's where you're going to want to call if there's an emergency. But we, from the administrative side, are the crisis and safety office. So one of the deans is on call 24/7, 365. Our office number is answered 24 hours a day. After hours, it's a call service, but they certainly can get in touch with the dean on call if that's what's needed. But if you have a student concern from kind of a safety perspective, you certainly can call us. We have processes in place to help ensure campus safety. The Wildcat Walk program is available for everyone on campus. It's a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You call the 395 SAFE number, and a campus security officer will come and walk a student or a faculty staff member up to 2 blocks off campus. So if it's 2 in the morning and a student's leaving the library and they just aren't comfortable walking back to the residence hall, they can call this number and someone can walk with them. If it's 10 in the morning and a student's using this, we certainly want to know why and want to get to the bottom of why they're feeling unsafe on campus and help them provide that support. Another thing that's really good for everyone to download is the Guardian app. That is a safety app through our police department. Lots of good safety resources. There's a quick call 911 button. There's a walk feature where you can actually connect with somebody else and they can watch you're on GPS walk around campus or Manhattan. And so that's another good safety feature to make sure you have on your phone. The Student Judicial program, this year you'll start to see it coming out very soon. We're doing a code of conduct revision. We're taking a look at our PPM policy, PPM 3010 policy, which is our discrimination harassment policy. We're taking a look at our threat assessment policy. So the Office of Student Life, in conjunction with the judicial branch of SGA, oversees the Student Judicial program. And so if you have a student who is causing concerns in your classes with behavioral issues, you can submit a code of conduct and we will review it. Myself and Dean Laurel Moody, along with the Student Attorney General, review all of those and think through and process through those reports. One area that's going to be really important this year is that face mask requirement that the campus has. If you have a student who is refusing to put on a face mask, and I'm talking they come and they flat out are refusing, you have a right to tell that student to leave your classroom. They leave the classroom, you need to fill out a code of conduct report. And when you get on the code of conduct report, it's at the website. Fastest way to get to it is ksu.edu/report. There'll be instructions on the code of conduct form about which items you select. A student refuses to leave the classroom or refuses to put on a mask but says, "I'll socially distance." You have to make a decision. Do you cancel class that day? Or do you say, okay, well, if you sit in the back and then you just do class, you submit a code of conduct report. So we can get a letter out and a meeting out for that student so they can understand. You have a student who becomes belligerent and is upset about the mask and they're refusing to leave, they're not being cooperative, you call campus police. And they can come and they'll address that issue with the situation. And you fill out a code of conduct report. How a student responds will depend on how the code of conduct is applied. If you have a student who always wears a mask and they just forget a mask one day, you can ask them to leave, or you can say, I will have a few disposable masks up in our office, send them to our office, 201 Holton Hall. I would rather have a student miss 10 minutes of your class while they run over and get a disposable mask from me and come back than have code of conduct violations if it can be a simple, reasonable solution. So it's going to be very important too that as we're thinking about the mask requirement, that you are enforcing the mask requirement in physical distancing in your classes. That's going to impact, if a student has a positive, how that class is impacted. So if you have any concerns about how to enforce the mask policy or code of conduct issues, you certainly can call our office and we're happy to talk through that. Title IX covers sexual harassment, sexual violence, discrimination. That all falls under our PPM 3010. The key thing to remember here is that you are not a confidential person to your students. If a student comes to you and says, something happened to me, you have to say, I have to make a report if you tell me. And if you get information, you have to talk through that. Here's a definition of sexual violence. It's just something to be aware of. Includes but not limited to rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, sexual coercion. If a student reports anything of that nature to you, you are required to inform the Office of Institutional Equity. If a student says, hey, I'm ready to make a report, and you're not comfortable kind of helping walk through that process, the student can go straight to OIE themselves or to the Office of Student Life. We can certainly help with that. If a student says, I need to talk to somebody, I don't know where to go, the CARE office is a confidential resource. So a student can go to them and tell an advocate exactly what occurred, and CARE will help connect them to resources, will help them make the report if they are interested in that. If a student wants to get a protection order because of something that's occurred, and this can be a protection order against somebody not associated with K-State, CARE will go down to the courthouse with them and help make that order. CARE also has a therapy fund that if a student needs therapy for being a survivor or secondary survivor of trauma, CARE can pay for the therapy off campus or on campus for a student. So how do you recognize a student in crisis? This will look a little differently potentially. If you're an in-person versus an online environment, you're going to have a different level of what you're looking for. You can see on here several different things that might be indicators of a student going through crisis. Student shows up to your classes the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the semester. They're on time. They're there. They're actively engaged. And then all of a sudden they start missing a lot. Their assignments stop coming in. The level of work is poor. Their appearance is disheveled. And I'm not just talking about like the college beard grow, but like not bathing, like just those are signs. And you can say to the student, hey, what's going on? Do you want to talk? If you're not comfortable with that, you can fill out that student of concern report for us and just tell us what you've observed, and we'll reach out to that student just to see if we can engage with them. You're in an online class and you never see the student. Well, if you've got discussion boards, you're going to get an idea about the students that post early, the students that post really good posts, and all of a sudden those start to fade away. Or you're going through and grading assignments and you're saying, wait a minute, they've missed the last couple assignments. Shoot them a message. Hey, what's going on? Want to know what's happening for you? A student might tell you a lot. Students really appreciate when faculty pay attention and when faculty care. And that's one of the things that K-State, I think, does really well. And so when in doubt, just ask them. When in doubt, send us a student of concern report. The earlier we can engage with the student that's struggling, the easier it is and the more effective our intervention can be to keep them on a good level path without having to do, withdrawals or incompletes or anything of that nature. So it is okay to be invasive in your care. So how do you assist them? Build on your relationship. Some of you are going to be teaching classes of 150 people online. Some of you are going to be teaching classes of 8 people in a lab setting. So your ability to get to know those students, and I'm not saying you're friends with the students, I'm not saying you're prying in their personal life, but having a rapport and openness, this is going to be a tricky semester, but I'm here to help guide you through it kind of approach, helps open that door for students to feel like they can relate to you, to feel like they can open up to you, to feel like they can be honest within your classroom. Relate observations. That's one of those things when you fill out that student concern report, that's important to do. Normalize help, normalize struggle. We all have them. I think part of the reason our SOC numbers have gone up is because people are realizing there's mental health concerns out there. Life gets difficult. We don't have to be these superhuman people that don't have issues. We all have them. We all need to be open with them. We need to talk about them. And if we do that, then we can help address them more easily. Make referrals, whether to the academic dean's office, the Office of Student Life, counseling services, the family center. If they live in housing, they can talk with their RA. And I think what's really important is take care of yourselves. All of these things I'm talking about here, I'm talking in context of you as the GTA to the student. They're there for you too as a student. And so make sure you're taking care of yourself. Grad school is hard. I wouldn't want to do it again. It's a challenging time. And I think you have to be mindful of where you're at. You have to be mindful of the needs you need, where you're getting your energies from, and take care of yourself the same way we ask our undergrad or other graduate students to. So if you need help, this button here, the Student of Concern button, is on our website. It's on that /report website we talked about. You can call us, you can email us. Don't hesitate to reach out. I don't care how small the question is. We are happy to answer it and help talk you through it. When we get a student concern report, we send every student an email right away that says, hey, we've gotten, we'd love to have you come in and help you. On lower level stuff, our system lets us see if a student opened the letter. So if the student opened the letter, we count that as connected because it's going to have resources in that letter. On elevated stuff, we're then going to call the student. If you're talking about health and safety sort of situations, we may do a wellness check where we send housing staff to the apartment, or if they're off campus, the police to go check in on them to make sure that their health and safety is okay. And we have a lot of in-person meetings with the students just to have to talk through that. And the Student of Concern Guide, the website is there. This is our reporting form for Student of Concern. Fast, easy, takes you less than a minute to fill it out. So you're grading papers late at night and you're like, oh, I got like 4 or 5 here. Don't think that's an hour process to then submit them. Nope, in less than 5 minutes, you could have all 5 submitted. This is our Student Concern Guide, also on our website with a quick, easy button. So if you're just kind of curious about some things, I'm throwing a lot of information at you. You just want to go and look, you can check out our Student Concern Guide. It's got lots of resources, lots of things to pay attention to. When you notice them, here's what you do sort of information. Some resources here, Academic Achievement Center. If you have a student that says they're struggling with time management, they're struggling with how to study, they can go sign up for an academic coach free of charge, and the academic coach will work with them for a few weeks, teach them the skills and help them so that's not an issue any further. Tutoring's available, study groups. Student Access Center, you should have a syllabus statement about Student Access Center, so students with permanent or temporary disabilities. You may get a letter from Student Access Center that says a student needs additional test time. You may be able to set that up, right? Like a time and a half in a quiet environment, maybe in your office setting, or you can work with Student Access Center to do that, and they can provide a space. If you have a student who, when we talk about a temporary disability, so if a student breaks their dominant hand that they write with, they may want to work with Student Access Center because they may need a note taker. And so if you see a student kind of struggling and it may be something the Student Access Center or we can help with, make sure you connect the student with us. Lafayette Health Center is a full clinic. We're leaning on them for our COVID response and our COVID communication for students that have it. So if you have a student with any sort of health issue, Lafayette is a great place to go. Financial assistance, there are lots of resources out there. We know college is expensive, so you can send a student our way. Some resources to know about. The K-State Proud application, that's students serving students for one-time money needs that a student can fill out. I always encourage a student to work with financial aid because you just never know what aid is out there, as well as PowerCat Financial Counseling. So if a student's just struggling with budgeting, that's a great office to go work with that can talk and build financial literacy and financial skills. Counseling services, tons of great opportunities there with individual and group therapy. We've changed our model from the previous year, so a student won't be charged for therapy. They get 8 sessions a semester, summer, fall, and spring semesters. So that's a lot of, that's almost every other week that a student can get free therapy. Student legal services, we've talked about. Care, we've talked about. Cat's Cupboard. If you have a student that says they're not eating meals, Cat's Cupboard is there as a no questions asked food pantry. It's in the basement of Fairchild Hall. A student can go. They can go every day and collect food. So, and then Cats Covered will have lots of different resources based around that food insecurity piece. We are located in 201 Holton Hall, which is right across from Bluemont Hall and Hale Library. Our office is open this semester. We'll at least have one dean and then Carolyn, our coordinator, as well as some student employees in there every single day. The rest of us will be working remote. It's kind of in a rotating schedule. So you can stop by, you can walk a student up. We will be available 8 to 5 every day. Otherwise, call us, email us, and we'll make sure we can get some appointments set up with the students. Like I said, we're trying to do most of them via Zoom just to support our physical distancing and campus health and well-being, but don't hesitate to reach out to us. This is just a picture of our website, so you can see the Student of Concern button, the student reporting form for Student of Concern. That Report It button will get you right to the Report It page. And if you want us to come to one of your classes and present, we love coming out in the classrooms and getting in front of students. We've got several set first-year seminars we come out to, but if you want us to come out and give a 10-minute presentation, a 5-minute presentation, a 40-minute presentation on what we do and how we help students, fill that out and we will set it up and we will get out there, whether that's in-person physical distancing or via Zoom, we can set that up. But I look forward to working with you. I appreciate the efforts that you all will make for our students and getting through this tricky semester. And do not hesitate to let me know how I can help.